Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at something we all use constantly: screens.
Right, they're everywhere. Phones, TVs, computers.
Exactly. But what happens when that familiar glow, that screen you look at every day, turns, well, sinister? Not in a movie, but right there in your home.
Mm-hmm.
We've got this one account, this story. It's pretty intense. Okay, let's unpack this.
And what's really potent here, I think, is how it mixes the everyday tech with something deeply unsettling, almost supernatural.
Yeah.
And it's a first-person story, which gives it this real, immediacy. It's not just some tale. It feels like you're right there with the person experiencing this terror.
That's a great point. So the heart of this deep dive, it's this chilling personal narrative. A TV starts acting up, then later a mirror.
Right.
And always at this incredibly specific time, 2:17 a.m., every single time.
That consistency is key, isn't it? It rules out randomness.
It really does. So today, our mission is to trace how these events unfold, what they reveal about the person involved, this deep personal connection, and honestly, the scary implications that linger.
Okay.
So where does it begin? Well, pretty subtly, actually. The narrator's TV just starts turning itself on,
That
not playing anything, just static, that loud hissing static.
Right. And the first time, you just think,
Exactly. Maybe I bumped the remote. Maybe I set a timer ages ago and forgot. Logical stuff. Especially if you live alone, things can seem weird sometimes.
sure, easy to rationalize away. At first.
At first. But the story makes it clear that those easy answers start to fade. Because it keeps happening.
Yeah, it's that pattern again.
Yeah.
And by the third night, according to the account, ignoring it wasn't really an option.
No, that's when it gets properly chilling.
Mm-hmm.
Third night, the static isn't just noise anymore. There's a voice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, kind of buried in the hiss, but clear enough.
Yeah.
And it says the narrator's name.
Just
Just their name, imagine that. Pitch black, 2:17 a.m., and your TV calls you by name.
okay, that's terrifying. I mean, the immediate reaction.
Panic,
Breath.
total panic. The narrator just jumps up, yanks the plug right out of the wall, thinking, okay, that's it, power's cut, it's over.
The logical fix, right. No power, no problem.
You'd think. But this is where the story really pivots, doesn't it? From weird glitch to something else.
Exactly. Because the next night rolls around, 2:17 a.m.,
And the TV turns on again.
still unplugged.
Still unplugged from the wall,
Yeah.
glowing, humming with static.
Okay, that breaks the rules. That's physically impossible.
Completely. And that detail, the unplugged TV, that's what shatters any lingering rational explanation. It forces the narrator face to face with something truly unexplainable.
And pushes them right out of the apartment. The account says they just fled, spent hours in their car.
Can you blame them? But, the mind still fights for logic, even after that.
Right. You still want a normal explanation.
So the next day, they call an electrician. Doesn't say my TV is haunted, just the circuits are acting weird.
Smart move. Plausible deniability.
Right. So the electrician comes, checks everything, the wiring, the outlets, the breaker box, super thorough,
Right.
and finds absolutely nothing. His verdict is clear. There's nothing wrong, ma'am. Power's clean, no surges. That TV should not be turning on.
Wow. So external validation from an expert.
Exactly. That seals it. It confirms this isn't faulty wiring or some bizarre power surge. It's something else.
And that must have been terrifying in its own way, knowing for sure.
Absolutely. So that night, the narrator doesn't run. They decide to face it. They sit there on the couch just watching the blank screen, waiting
For 2:17 a.m.
for 2:17 a.m.
Yeah.
And right on schedule, the static kicks in. But this time, it's not just the name. Specific words come through.
What words?
Don't look too closely.
Okay. That sounds ominous, but maybe random.
That's what you might think. But here's the core of it. The truly horrifying part. Those exact words, "don't look too closely," were the very last thing the narrator's younger brother, Ethan, said before he drowned. Years ago. Age 11.
Oh my God.
And the narrator carries this immense guilt because they were supposed to be watching him, but they were distracted by their phone.
So the timing, the specific words.
It's all connected. And the crucial thing, according to the narrator, nobody else knew those were his last words. Not their parents, not anyone.
So this entity, whatever it is.
It knows their deepest secret, their most profound source of guilt and pain. It's not just a random haunting. It's incredibly personal, tailor-made torment.
That's beyond chilling. It implies this intelligence, this intimate knowledge.
Exactly. And after that revelation, things escalate fast. The following nights, it's not just voices or static. The screen starts showing images.
Images like what?
First, the lake where Ethan died, just the water. Then Ethan's face starts appearing in the static.
Oh, no.
And then, maybe the worst part, the narrator sees their own face, reflected as if they were drowned, lifeless in the water.
Wow. That's psychological torture. Pure manipulation of grief and guilt.
And this constant feeling of being watched, permeating everything. The TV wasn't just a window anymore, it felt like an eye.
I can only imagine the psychological toll, the invasion.
It becomes unbearable, so the narrator decides on drastic action. They have to get the TV out.
Physically remove it.
Yeah, they wrestle this thing down the stairs, out the building, dump it in an alleyway far from their apartment, thinking, okay, if the source is gone.
The haunting stops. It's a logical, if desperate, attempt to regain control.
A very human reaction to something inhuman. But it doesn't work.
Let me guess. The next night.
The next night, 2:17 a.m.
Yeah.
The narrator walks into the living room, and there it is.
None.
The same TV, sitting right there in the middle of the room, plugged in, turned on, static glowing, waiting.
No. That's impossible. How?
That's the point, isn't it? It is impossible. It shows the entity isn't in the TV. It just uses it, and it can apparently violate physical laws to put it back.
The futility must have been crushing, realizing you can't physically escape it.
That's the breaking point. The narrator just collapses, screaming, crying, begging on the floor for it to stop. Just absolute despair.
Understandable. Completely understandable.
And the TV's response, this is maybe the cruelest part.
What did it do?
It laughed.
It laughed.
Yeah. A cold, mocking sound from the static. And as it laughed, the static swirls, gets denser, and then a hand starts pushing through the screen.
A hand. Like a physical hand.
Described as pale, bloated, reaching out from the glass.
Oh, God. That crosses a line from psychological to physical threat.
Totally. And that's when the narrator snaps, grabs the nearest heavy object, a hammer, and just smashes the screen over and over, shattering the glass, silencing the static, the laughter.
A violent reaction to a violent intrusion. A desperate act to make it stop. Believing. Maybe. Finally.
Finally, it's over. Silence. The TV is destroyed. Broken.
And you know, it's fascinating how this story uses our reliance on screens. Turns this everyday object into this conduit for pure dread.
Right. Something we invite right into our homes. And for a little while, after smashing the TV, there was peace. Calm.
A much-needed respite, I imagine.
Definitely. But here's where the story takes its final, really unsettling twist.
Okay.
The peace doesn't last. About a week goes by. Everything seems normal. And then...
No, don't tell me. 2:17 a.m.
Exactly 2:17 a.m. The narrator wakes up, but it's not the TV this time. It's the bedroom mirror.
The mirror, yeah. The reflection isn't right. It's distorting. And that feeling returns, that presence. The narrator's final thought in the account is chilling. Something followed me through that screen.
So destroying the TV didn't destroy the entity?
Not at all. It just displaced it.
Uh-huh.
The TV was just a first door.
Yeah.
Now it seemed to be using the mirror.
It found another screen, another reflective surface. The implication being it's still there.
Exactly. It's now looking for a new way out, as the narrator puts it. Maybe through another screen, another voice.
Which leaves us, and you listening, with a pretty disturbing thought, doesn't it? As you look at your phone tonight or glance in the mirror. Especially if it happens to be around, say, 2:17 a.m. Will you be looking too closely? It really makes you think, doesn't it, about these glowing rectangles we live with. What exactly are we letting into our homes, our lives, our minds even? The boundaries might be a lot more permeable than we like to think.